Hi everyone, and welcome to Getting Going in Geoland. So today I'm going to be presenting to you some great tips and tricks on some great geo tools that you can use in your classroom. Hopefully be able to take something straight away from this and use it in your classroom. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. So I'm just going to jump in here. Okay, so down the bottom right-hand corner, you'll be able to see there's a bit.ly/Geoland with a capital G. If you pop that in, you'll be able to grab these slides. However, just so you know, I will be these slides are a guide, but I will be really just using the tools hands-on, so you'll be able to see how to use them in your classroom. If you need to contact me, these are my details, although you'll be able to also see my Twitter is probably the best way to contact me, but you can contact me elsewhere as well. I have a blog called Code for Kids that I blog some great stuff on about teachers being able to use different parts of computer science or computational thinking in their classroom. So some great ideas there you might want to check out as well. Okay, so we're going to cover the new Google Earth today. We're going to cover using My Maps, and we're also going to look at Google Maps going into space. Okay, so I like to start with this quote because really we try and create curiosity with our kids and get them to think and wonder and ponder about different parts of the world. And this is a great quote from Albert Einstein. It is a miracle that curiosity survives formal education. And we know that sometimes in education, we sometimes can miss things or miss the moment or miss that aha moment with students. And creating their curiosity and getting them to think about things, going a bit deeper with their thinking and teaching and learning is a really important part of their education, getting them to think for themselves and find out things about the world as well. So we're going to start with the new Google Earth, and just a bit of an overview of new Google Earth. If you haven't seen it, it is fantastic. So it's gone other days we had to download it onto our computer. We can now use it as a cloud-based product. So they've redeveloped this. So there are voyages and stories within the new Google Earth, which I'm going to show you how to access those. Google now work in partnership with many geographical companies or people such as David Attenborough or the National Geographic and a few other ones as well to develop these stories and voyages across the world. And you can access all those in Google Earth and create great lessons and share them directly to your Google Classroom. So that's a really great little feature too. It's updated all the time. Every time I go onto Google Earth, there is a new voyage or story up there about something. And what I really love about Google Earth is that it's really current in the world today. So, you know, when Hurricane Katrina hit, they actually did a bit of a voyage of that. So you could actually see the track the hurricane went through, and you could see some of the devastation. So it gives that really good up-to-date live feed to kids about what's happening when the eclipse happened. It showed the eclipse the journey that it traveled. So it really is current, and even not even just with things that are happening, but they're just putting new content on all the time. So it's really great tool to tap into. So some of the topics that they cover are travel, culture, nature, and history. So I'm going to actually jump out of my slides, and I've actually already launched it up here. I'm just going to close this down here. And so I've already launched it here. It does sometimes take a little bit of time to launch because there's a lot of data sitting in Google Earth. So I have pre-launched it for that reason. Down the side here, you can see I've got my menu here, which is my account. I've got a search bar. I've got I call this a pirate wheel, but it's the Voyager. I've got Get Lucky, I'm feeling lucky, which can take us anywhere in the world. We can bookmark places that we want to come back to. And here is how we can share our Google Earth locations. Sometimes in the classroom, and what I really like to do is just do a random, let's just have a look. I know in grade 3 and 4, we in Victoria, we cover a lot of Australia. It's part of that part of the curriculum for that level. But one thing I notice is that children just don't know what the world really looks like, or they don't really even know what Australia looks like. So sometimes it's good just to get them to have a think about different ways of using maps. And because we often, before we had Google Earth and Google Maps and all the other great geo tools out there, we used to just have the flat map up in the classroom, and this gives them a really good view of how things look around the world, and a good visual as well. So here we've got, I just did I'm feeling lucky, and we're here or the All Russian Expedition Center, and this is a card, called a card, and it gives us information. But what I like about the card is it gives us really easy to read and understand information, and if we want to go further, it gives us a little bit more detail to do that as well. So that's really great for young kids. I find that even grade 2s can have a look at that and be reading that information. Something that I do from here is that if I've got a grade 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 even, I just go to this share button, and here is a Google Classroom. So I can press that. I'm not going to do that right now because we're on a limited time and I want to get through quite a little bit with you. So, but you can actually press that and it'll pop up to what classroom do you want to share it with, what do you want to put in there, and I'll usually just say, find me 5 facts about this place. How could you get to this place from your home? So I try and get them to think about and have a look at this place, whatever place it is that comes up, in different ways. And I use Google Classroom as a bit of a launch pad for that. So a really great way to access and easily get to your students the information that you want them to have. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to show you the Voyager. So the Voyager is great way to have a look at different areas or different stories or different tours around the world. And you can see here you've got the Galapagos Islands. So these are the new ones. So they always have 3 up the top here, and they're always the 3 most current ones. But if we go down here, we can see we've got other ones down here. So we've got, reading ABCs from space. So it's just looking at land formations in the ABCs. So it's really good for, kids as such. You can go into travel. Have a look down here, and you can see there's lots here on travel. So you can see there's quite a variety. It sort of covers a lot of areas around the world, and they're just updating them all the time. I'm going to actually go to history. You can go down here and have a look at history. So you can see there's lots there. So and explorers. So here we've got explorers from around the world. So, they haven't actually got Australian explorers yet, but I'm sure that they will be coming, Australia and New Zealand. And I'm sure there's some coming for you as well. So here we've got the day the dinosaurs died. Now my son is 4 and he loves this one. And we can go down. So when we actually go into one, we can, I'm going to actually go into this one called Searching for Home. So if you've seen the story of Saru Bareilly, who is quite a well-known figure now, and he tells his story in Lion, the movie Lion, if you've seen it or read the book, about how he fell asleep on a park bench. Now, I won't have time to, I'm just going to go do it really quickly, but we can actually take his journey, and he worked with Google to recreate his journey, because he actually used Google Earth to find his way back home because he got lost on a train and ended up in an unknown location. We can actually use other tools with this Google Earth story, such as My Maps, to map out where he actually went and what the distance that he could have traveled and where he could have ended up, for example. So here we can actually use a 3D or a 2D view, which is a great new feature of Google Earth. If you look at something like the Eiffel Tower, Leaning Tower of Pisa, structures that are quite high, you can get really good. I can, if I want to, drop my peg man in here. I might just go back to 2D view for a second. It's going a little bit slow. It's trying to use a lot of data because I'm streaming. You can see that for Street View. Now, I won't go into one because I think most people have seen Street View, but you could basically go right into that that's mean and how that's what you so the blue comes up. So that's just actually catching up the card to tell us about the story. And I can actually go to the next page and it tells us where he ended up and he got adopted out. And I can just move through this. Show up. That's computer. Okay, so here we can see train lines and so forth. So I can keep going through this journey and I can see along the dots here about the journey that he traveled. So a lot of ways. You could then, you might not even want to do a voyage. You might just want to go in and have a look at your, the 1-2s I'm working with at the moment. They're just looking at where they live in the world and where they are situated within their community and what's in their community. So you can go around and have a look, get a really good view of that with Google Earth as well. Because this is just because there's so much data coming into this Google Earth, I'm actually going to move on to My Maps because it is going a little bit slow. And I think I've shown you quite a lot you can do with this already now, but it is a really great tool to use, and the voyages are fantastic. So really go in and have a look at those. I'm sure there's one there that can connect with whatever you are doing at the moment. Okay, so we're actually going to look at Google My Maps now. I'm just going to jump back here and okay, so if you haven't used Google My Maps, I'm going to show you where they sit because a lot of people don't know how to actually access them really easily. They are part of your Google Drive, believe it or not. So you've got assessment mapping you can do with My Maps, which I'll show you some ideas around that. You can map a journey. They're collaborative. You can import data, collect data, and you can actually prove to your kids that the world is round. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to import data into a My Map. So I've just created this one just to show you how to do this. So this is your My Map, and you can do lots of great stuff here. You can measure distances, so you can measure, across Australia, and you can see, how the length across Australia, what that would be. And you notice that when I do that line, even though I tried to do a rather straight line, the line naturally curves, and that's because the Earth is obviously round. And we can have this discussion with our students, and you could actually get a flat map and you could measure across and see if it was the same, and you'll probably find it's not because you can't do a round measurement with a ruler. So you can have some just really great discussions there. But one thing we can do that I love about My Maps, and I know this is a lot of other people's favorite part of My Maps as well, is that you can import data. So you can have up to 10 layers along the side here, and you can import data into this layer, and we can actually go to Google Drive. Now, I have actually already got a Google Sheet here ready to go because of the time in this presentation. But you could go to Google Research Tables and find tables on anything. You could find tables on extinct animals. You could find tables on where butterflies live around the world, what type of butterflies they are, shark attacks, lots of different. But I'm just going to look at volcanoes. And one of the things that asked me with this spreadsheet is these are the columns and what's in the columns. And this one, I wanted to mark where I want the place marker to be. So I've got latitude, so that's gonna be latitude and longitude, and I want to mark those parts out. They're the bits that I want to emphasize on this map. And then what do I want it to be called? I'm going to call it the volcano name. And so once I finish that, what it's going to do now is it's going to import that data from that map. So from that sheet. So I was just going to show you the sheet. This is the sheet here. So this is the sheet here, the name of the volcano, the country, the type of volcano, latitude, longitude. So that's obviously the location and the elevation of the volcano as well. So, you know, even when we think about Bali at the moment, we might be able to even go and find that volcano in here. And you can see it's mapped out all the volcanoes. It's brought in all that data. Okay, so what I can do here is I can actually change my map to a satellite view, and then we can have some great discussions with the kids around, you know, why are a lot of volcanoes, most of the volcanoes in the world are actually in this area. And then if you actually untick, you can actually see the platelets even under the water there, and you can have discussion about the ring of fire. You can even, if you really wanted to, you can change your icons here, and we can go to more icons. And I know that there's a volcano one because I've done this a few times. And so I can go choose that one. And so now they're all volcanoes, and I'm also going to make them red. So there they are there. And now I can do some other learning with this. I could even bring in some other natural disasters and make some other layers. So I could bring in tsunamis or earthquakes and whatever. And so if I was doing a natural disasters unit, I've got some great data here, and it's real data, and I'm working with the real world data as well. So that's what I'm trying to say. So one other thing that you can do I'm going to add a new layer here, and I'm going to take off that one, and I'm going to go back to my base map. So something that I have been doing with some of the students is they've been looking at where the equator lies, and they've also been looking at countries that are in the southern hemisphere, but particularly in the southern part of South America and the southern part of Africa. And what they had to do is find a place that they had been looking at. And so let's just say they were looking at Rio de Janeiro. And so they might find that place, and then they can add that place to the map. And because this is collaborative, I could have my whole class on here doing this, so everybody's place would be on the map. I could then edit the information, and I could put my name here, and then I know that that's mine, and I can put my information about Rio here. And then I can also, from Google image search, grab an image. Because I'm hoping, yep, okay, so I've got something here. Okay, this one's a pretty popular image. So I'm just going to put that one in. I could put 3 or 4 images in, and it would create a little slideshow even. I can even put a video in there from YouTube if I want to. So I'm going to save this. I could use a screencast, and I could screencast my presentation on this place and then add that in there. And then that would be what the other students could see. So I could then have 20 on here, and I could go over, and then this is my actual assessment of the information the students have learned throughout this unit of work. So you can see that when I actually do want to add an image or video, I can go and upload. I can use my webcam. I can find the image with the URL, images from my photos or my Google Drive. So I might have saved some images already. And here I can do a YouTube search here. So this is where your YouTube is. So if your students have uploaded something to YouTube, they might want to put that on there as well. Or if you have uploaded something as well. So that's a really great way to do assessment, and the kids really love it. Another thing they could do is if they were looking at a journey, so they might have been looking at, Willem Burke's journey across Australia or Captain Cook's journey, how he got here, and you could actually pre-map this out for your students. So you would actually draw the journey. So you could draw the journey of where their boat might have travelled. All right, and I know this is not accurate, but this is just for the purpose of this presentation. And I could say to my students, okay, you've got, a certain part of the journey that you need to record a diary of. And so now my students are creating a diary entry for different parts of the journey, and we could have one from when they started, and they could be all along this line. They have to find where they need to be, and then that's their assessment of, of a journey they could have looked at. So what I'm going to do here, so I'm actually going to delete that, because what I'm going to show you now is something that's also very, very cool. Is I'm actually going to draw a line around, a very rough line around Australia, and I'm going to challenge my kids to think, this is happening again. I'm going to challenge my kids to think about, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, to think about how big Australia actually is. And I might even ask them, what they think the area of Australia was. They might even think about what the perimeter of Australia is. So I'm going to map around, and this is not a very good job, but you get the idea. I'm sure you would do a better job of this than me. Well, your students definitely would. Okay, so once you do that, you create a polygon, and here, once you save it, it gives you some of that information that I was just talking about there. I can also change my color of my polygon if I want to. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say to my students, Australia, what do you think Australia is bigger than, what countries do you think Australia is bigger than? And they might say South Africa, and you might go over here, and you can actually then take Australia. Well, let me just zoom in a little bit more. Take Australia, and I can actually move it on top of South Africa. Yeah, it is bigger than South Africa. That was really good. Okay, now what else? What do you think it's about the same size as? And they might look at, Brazil, and they might say, yeah, actually, it's about the same size as Brazil. We're about the same size as Brazil, okay? So then we might look at Greenland, and we might say, well, we're probably actually smaller than Greenland. But if you actually go up to Greenland, you can actually see that Australia is bigger than Greenland, because we know that the Earth is not flat. So we can actually then, if we wanted to, we could do the reverse and go around to Greenland and see how big Greenland is. If we knew what our calculations were for what the perimeter and area was for Australia, we might be able to then calculate that Greenland is about a third of the size of Australia, and we can then put Greenland on top of Australia. So it's a really great tool to use to discuss proportions of countries and thinking about how the world is round, and that maps lie to us, the flat ones anyway. Okay, so that is a little bit on my map. So I've been able to take something from that away, because it's a really great tool. I told you I'd show you how to get to it. So if you go to your drive, under New, under more, you'll see that there's lots of other really great Google tools here. This is where Google Forms is, and My Maps is actually one of those. Okay, so you can just access My Maps from there, and then they just save in your drive. You can open them up straight from your drive. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. And I can see here, the next thing we're going to be doing is Google Maps to space. Now, if you're one of those teachers that always covers space, space is a great unit to cover, you can actually use Google Maps to do this. Just the normal Google Maps that you use for directions and to find places. So you need to use satellite views in it, and you can see the moon, the space station, planets, stars, and you can actually get street view on some of those as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm in here. I've already got, because I'm presenting from Melbourne today, so I'm not actually at the Google office. So I thought I'll just show you where the Google office is in Sydney if you don't know. So here it is here. So there's actually a few Google offices, but this is this is the main one. And so I'm in satellite view already. If you didn't know how to do that, down the bottom, this is just your base map view, and you can just click on that to get satellite view. So I can zoom out. Now, if I keep zooming out, I can see, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, all the way until it is actually, you can just see the globe. Okay, and if we can go as far out as we can get, we can actually see we've got space here. And if I turn, you can see what's happening there. You can see nighttime, daytime, and look, and there's the sun and the Milky Way. So you can see, you can have some great discussions about Earth in this way. And what we can do here is if we expand this side panel, and I close that, and close that. I need to zoom out a little bit more. There we go. Just waiting for that to come up. Okay, so we've got space. So up until a few weeks ago, when I last showed this at a presentation, there was only Mercury, Earth, the International Space Station, and the Moon and Mars. So now that I'm looking at it, there are a lot more things that have been added. Even Pluto, I hadn't even seen that one. So this is a really great way to show your kids Earth. Space. So here we've got, we can look at Mercury. Okay, and we can turn Mercury and, get the sun again. And we can see Venus. So if you're looking at different planets, this is a great way. We've seen Earth. Sorry, I didn't mean to press that one. But if you're like looking at day and night and you're looking at the moon, you could go here, have a look at the moon, have a look at, the day and night, the moon. And we can, if we click off this and I zoom in a little bit, I can see, different parts of the moon. I might even see some, lava pools, and I might have some discussions about that. That's a lava pool there, and there's some names there. We might even look at why those names are those names, what's important about those names. If I go to Mars, and I can actually go in here, you can do a 3D view. So let me do 3D. Okay, so I can move across here and I can see the craters. And normally, when I do this, the street view actually comes up and you can press street view and you can go in here. But for some reason today, as normal with technology, never works the way you want it to work when you want it to work. So normally there is a street view there though, and you can actually go in and see different parts of Mars actually on the ground. So there's a hovercraft in there, and that's taking photos of different areas, and you can see some of the land formations. You can even look at the International Space Station. There we go, it's come up now. So International Space Station there. Trying to move around there. Okay, so that's sort of, some of the views from there. Just go out a bit more. Let's come back to Earth now. I'm trying to do too much at once on my computer. That's the problem, I think. Okay, so I think I haven't actually seen Pluto, so I'll just jump onto Pluto, and this would probably be the last thing I can do here. And we can go around and have a look at Pluto now. You can see the different land formation, or the different, not land, but the different formations in Pluto there. And it's just disappeared, gone back to Earth. So really great way to use Google Maps, though, and probably a different way as well that you may not have already thought of using it before. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. So thank you for watching, and I'll have a look at some of the questions. If you've popped questions up, I'll have a look at some of those and I'll answer those as well. But thank you for watching, and I hope that this was very useful for you. I'll just pop this up for 30 seconds if you wanted to grab the slides here, just bit.ly/Geoland, and I'll pop that into the answers as well, so that you can actually grab that. So thank you. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you're able to take something back from that as well. See you later.